If you are someone who ruminates on the past, then it can feel like you are caught in an endless loop, a cycle that you can't break out of, and those thoughts of what has gone on already just keep going on and you can't break free. Well, today I'm going to give you a really quick and simple strategy so that you can break that cycle, so you can be free from the rumination, and more importantly, so that you can move forward with positive decisions and choices that can affect your life in a useful way. So we better start by just defining what rumination actually is. So rumination is a form of overthinking where those thoughts just keep going on in your head. But what makes rumination different to just general overthinking is that you're thinking about things that have happened in the past. So this often comes up when we have made a choice that we're not happy with, or sometimes for people, they ruminate on things that they said that they wish they hadn't said. It could be something really small and seemingly insignificant for everybody around you, but it keeps going through your head. I wish I hadn't said that. And that plays back like it's on a loop, like it just keeps rewinding and playing forward and rewinding and playing forward. Or it could be something bigger in your life, a big choice that you've made at a turning point when you've taken one side of the fork in the road and not the other, and you keep playing back that moment that you made that choice. And for whatever reason, it is not releasing from your brain. Well, here, this strategy is going to help you to release that. And why is that important? The rumination that's going on, that overthinking of what's happened in the past, it doesn't change what's happened in the past, and it can keep you somewhat stuck there. So if you have made a choice, or you've made a comment, or you've said something that you regret, or you've done something that's hurt someone else, for example, the overthinking of it doesn't change the fact that it's happened. When we can release ourselves from the rumination, that is when we can actually take action and move forward in a positive way. Maybe learn how to make a different choice, or resolve what has been left unresolved by that action. The point is, the rumination doesn't fix any of it. When we can stop the rumination, we can begin to fix or move forward or learn from what's happened already. So if that's you, if you are someone who ruminates or has ruminated something that has gone on in the past, then let's dive in to this really simple but incredibly powerful approach to end the cycle of rumination. So what's an example of something that you might ruminate on? Well, what about that time when you said something to your boss that was completely inappropriate? Ask them about their dog that had died last week. That could be something that is going on in your head that you just wish you hadn't said. And anybody else might be able to say, oh, it doesn't matter, who cares? But to you, it is eating you up inside and you regret it. But more than that, you just can't stop thinking about that moment when you said that inappropriate comment. Or maybe you are ruminating a choice you made, like when you left that perfect person and for some reason, and maybe lots of good reasons, you decided to end that relationship and move in a different direction. But you're ruminating what happened there. You're overthinking, thinking about that choice and those moments and that departure, and it's become an obsession to just be thinking and thinking and thinking about what happened in that moment or in those moments. Or maybe for you, it's a rumination about a choice you made in terms of your career. You chose to go down one route instead of down another, and part of you keeps thinking about what if you made the other choice? What would life be like now? So you can see they can be these small moments that have happened and maybe happen all the time. In fact, your brain might be considering so many different things. You may be ruminating on 20 or 30 different moments all in a given day, or it may be one thing that just keeps revisiting you, haunts you. So whatever it is in your life, whatever it is that is affecting you in this way, we want to be able to take all of the important lessons that we can learn from the moments of our life and move forward and stop the cycle of that overthinking that is going on for you right now, so you can be truly released from it. This strategy here is made up of 3 action points and 4 questions. And we start with an action point which literally breaks the cycle. And it is so obvious, and yet I see so few people actually do it. And this works for overthinking as well as rumination. when you grab hold of that thought that keeps going through your head, write it down. So in the example we used about the comment made to the boss, just write down, I said this last Tuesday to my boss, and then write down what it was. Put it in a sentence and get it written down on a piece of paper. And what that does is it releases it from your brain. We understand that when you write something by hand, it takes the part of your brain that's been holding onto that and just lets it go. It stores it. That information then gets stored in a different part of your brain. And so it's not at the center part of your memory. You're not going to keep that cycle going because your brain no longer feels like it has to hold on to that piece of information. It's the same thing when we've got a lot of things we need to remember to go buy at the grocery store. We write down a list and then they're not kind of cycling through our brain all the time because our brain understands it doesn't have to hold onto them because we've put the responsibility on that piece of paper, on that list. And by the way, this works much better if you actually write it down by hand. Take a pencil, piece of paper, and write down what that thought is, what that moment of choice was. Or if it's a bigger moment like we discussed, if it was a big crossroads that you were at and you chose one direction for your life instead of another, and that's the thing that you keep ruminating on, write down what that choice was, when it was made. Go into as much detail as you can. This is often a point that people avoid because when we are sitting with something that we're not happy about, which is the basis of rumination, we don't ruminate on things that are joyful, we ruminate on mistakes or regrets. We tend to not want to think about it. We tend to shy away from that. The most powerful thing that we can do to end this cycle is to write it down. So that's got to be the first step. And in fact, the other things that I'm going to ask you to do can't happen until you've done that first step. So write it down. And if you want, pause the video right now and do it now so that we know we can move on effectively with the next action points and questions. Once you've written it down, we move on to 4 questions that you can ask yourself. Question number 1 is, what was the best possible outcome that could have happened in that situation? So whatever it is for you, that time that you let down your best friend, you stood her up because you had to go do something else and you didn't get in touch and she was really disappointed. If that's the thing you're ruminating on, well, what was the best possible outcome that could have happened? In that example that I just gave, maybe it was that you didn't let down your friend. You turned the other engagement down, you were there for your friend, you showed up, and that was the best possible outcome. Or maybe the best possible outcome was that you got in touch. You let her know that you had something else to do so that she didn't feel disappointed. You've got to be realistic here about what the best possible outcome was, but you also have to be open-minded. Really explore, okay, well, what could have happened there that didn't happen? We know it didn't happen. What could have happened that would have been the best possible outcome in that given situation? And then you move on to question 2. And this is where it can get painful if it is something that is a deep regret or something that you feel very uncomfortable about having happened. The question here is, well, why didn't that happen? So you understand what the best possible outcome was. You also understand what actually happened was because you wrote it down and that's the thing you're ruminating on. So the second question is, why didn't it happen? And here's where you need to spend a bit of time and understand, okay, well, why was the choice made for you to do something different? You know what the best possible outcome was, and maybe you only know in hindsight what the best possible outcome was, or maybe you didn't have the tools at the time to execute that best possible outcome, or maybe there were all sorts of extenuating circumstances that meant that that best possible outcome couldn't have happened in the way that it needed to at that moment. But write down and really take the time to think about why that best possible outcome didn't happen. By doing that, you're going to start to come to terms with why the choice you made did happen. Yet we're not focusing directly on that. If we were to focus directly on that, then we start to get into self-blame, self-judgment. We start to bring in all sorts of negative thoughts and ideas, when really all we're trying to do is understand better why things happened the way they happened. So that's the second question. The third question is, what am I going to take from this circumstance having happened? What am I going to draw from it? It's happened now. And by having written it down in our first action point, we are accepting that this is the situation that's happened. We've broken the cycle so that we are not ruminating in the way that we were. That's what happens when we write it down. We've asked ourselves the first two questions. Now, the third question is, what can we take from this? Yes, what lesson can be learned? Okay, if we were to enter into that same situation again, would we make the same choice, or would we make a different choice? Would we learn how to see it from a different angle, or bring some new insight or new tool to it? What can we take from this experience? And then the fourth question is, what can you leave behind? And this is really important, because for every experience we have, there will be something that we can take from it and move forward with. And there will be something that we can leave behind that is no longer necessary for us to take with us into the next part of our life, the next chapter of our life, where we stop the rumination and we move forward positively. What are we going to leave behind? So in this example, I've given so many examples. Let's take the one where we chose to leave that specific partner and we went a different way. And the thing that we might take from that are the positive memories, the wonderful feelings and emotions that came from being with that person. We can take that forward. It doesn't change the fact that we left that person, but it means that there's something positive coming forward with us. And what can we leave behind? The guilt, maybe, if that's an emotion you identify with this. The pain that you may have caused, maybe that's the thing that you've held onto that actually isn't serving you in any way. So you can choose to leave that behind. So when you're looking at this picture of what you want to leave behind, check in with what is actually going to serve you. And if there is something prevailing that you have kept with you up until this point, then choose which one of those things isn't serving you anymore and just make the choice to leave it behind. And you can write, when you've asked yourself those 4 questions, we move on to the 2 final action points. The first one being a sentence that you can say to yourself that you can own, and you can say it as many times as you need to until you have completed that chapter of your life where you are ruminating on this specific event. And remember, we're talking as small or as big the situation is for you. So don't judge yourself if it is just something seemingly inconsequential. We talked about that already, some passing comment, but it's eating you up inside, then it still needs to be dealt with the same as some bigger life-changing effect. So the sentence that you want to say is, I am stronger now because of the choice I made then. I am stronger now because of the choice I made then. And own that sentence. Repeat it to yourself as often as you need to, whenever that thought comes up again, because by saying that sentence, you're taking ownership of what happened. You are accepting that that is a choice that you made, but you are also acknowledging that you have learned from that, that that is a part of who you are now, and the who you are now is stronger because you have been through that experience, small or big, whatever it was for you. And if it's 100 different things, 100 different things that you're ruminating on, then each one of those things has made you stronger now because you made that choice. And then finally, to wrap up this strategy, you hook onto something in the future. So what that means is you look forward to an event that is coming up, maybe something that is already planned or hasn't been planned yet, that you can fully invest your emotions into, that you can look forward to and think about with positivity, that you can bring all of that strength that you've gained from that past experience. You can break that rumination and put yourself fully forward into something positive that is coming up ahead. And again, like I've said already, that could be a small thing or a big thing. That's not the point. The point is that you can be looking forward towards your future with the strength that you've gained from what's happened in